Hey guys, my name is Rick Reyes. I'm the owner of ADCS Institute, Alcohol and Drug Counseling Studies Online, and we are here to answer that question that every counselor in California has been asking themselves lately, and it's this: CCAPP versus CADTP versus CADE. Where do we go? Which one is the right board to go with? What are the fees? What's the testing process like? And what are the education requirements? The actual answers to all those questions might really surprise you. Check it out. All right, this is the CCAPP website. You can see up top we're at ccapp.us. And let's take a look here at the education requirements. Okay. Let's see here. Under education, let's actually look under credentialing because we want to see what the requirements are for certification. What is needed? Requirements right there. Let's take a look. So the education is going to be the same between the CADC 1 and 2. The difference is going to be primarily with the work experience hours. And so here we're really just going to focus on this video today on the education and the internship requirements, okay? So first, CCAPP, they state here that they're requiring 315 hours of approved education, 255 hours practicum or internship experience, 3,000 hours supervised work experience. And so we'll backtrack on that. So the main piece is the 315 hours of approved education, 255 hours of externship. Okay. Now that is also considered a class. So you'll kind of combine those 255 hours in addition to the 315. That's separate than your work experience. I know a lot of times students will confuse those two. So let's take a look and see, again, what these approved classes might consist of. And they do a really good job at giving you a breakdown of what's required. Academic content areas for CCAPP. Now it says here, ever wondered if your school, just paraphrase, if your school is approved by CCAPP or not? One thing that it says to make sure that you do is to not, one of the things that it makes sure that it mentions clearly is to make sure that you don't say if a school is or is not approved by CCAPP, because there might be some schools that they'll approve. They individually will review a student's transcript and give them feedback if there's a course that they can or cannot take to be accepted. Academic content areas. Intro and overview. Okay. And that's 45 clock hours in each area. Physiology and pharmacology, 45 hours. Law and ethics is another 45 hours. Case management, and covers the 12 core functions, probably some of the TAP 21 ASAM criteria, in that module as well. Individual, group, and family counseling, 45 hours, of course. Personal professional growth, another 45 hours. Supervised practicum. This is the module. So it says this course includes supervision by a qualified instructor and includes direct supervision. Instructors must also be available for consultation while students are completing field work. So while you're involved in the externship, not only are you working with your site supervisor, but you should have a staff member at your clinical instructor, or the title may vary from institution to institution, but you'll have an instructor that you can go to for consultation and somebody that will process with you. So this is a mandatory section as well, also considered a class. That will also be 45 hours, okay? And then the supervised field experience itself, the field work practicum, 255 hours of externship. And that's broken down here in agency orientation is actually 3 hours, of course, because you're going to want to learn about the program that you're going to be, volunteering or getting your hours at. and then the actual externship where you're going through the 12 core functions, that's 252 hours. So the exam that they take is the IC and RC exam. So the IC and RC exam is the test that is used in a majority of other states, and it's an international exam. So if you go to, I'm in Arizona, if you're here or in California, they're taking the same exam. So students over here that have a bachelor's or master's degree and they're going after getting licensed in Arizona, they're going to take the same exam that you're taking for CCAPP in California. Okay. So to recap, 315 hours of education, 255 hours of externship, and they're taking the IC and RC exam. Okay. And let's take a look at the other board we talked about, CADTP. Okay. And this is the other board in California that you have the option of getting certified by. All right. And let's see what their requirement is for education. Here's a list of their approved schools. And here we are on the list here as well. Let's see, academic content areas. They were seeing a recurring theme, 45 hours in each or 3 semester units. Intro and overview, phys and farm, law and ethics, case management, individual. Are we seeing a trend here? Individual, group, and family, personal, professional growth, supervised practicum, supervised field work practicum. Okay. Now let's take a look here at the externship if they break that down. Okay. 315 hours of substance use disorder related education, which they indicated above. 2,080 hours of substance use disorder related work experience, 160 which are practicum. Okay. So really similar. The difference is the practicum hours are 160 versus the 255. And then, they kind of go up to the credential, the SUDCC2. They add additional work experience. Same thing with the CADC, 2, and moving up their career ladder. So the education is looking the same and very, very, very close. And then the exam also is the same, IC and RC exam, right? So I think when it comes to these two boards, we're looking really apples to apples here. I mean, they're very similar. The difference is probably going to be which board you were exposed to, maybe through your treatment center or maybe through colleagues or friends that because the education requirements are pretty much going to be the same. Some people might have maybe a dual registration with them. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into that specifically, but maybe if, one thing that I hear is people will say, well, the CADTP, do you have to work in drinking and driving kind of programs to be? No, that's the California Association of DUI treatment programs, but that doesn't necessarily mean you only have to work in that specialty area, because you could even see the core content hours that were mentioned here didn't really mention anything specifically about DUI specific coursework, or it's the same breakdown of the curriculum. So it's good to have options, of course, and hopefully one day, like a lot of other states, California will have one board where they'll have one standard where everybody's singing the same song and doing the same thing. And it sounds like CCAPP and CADTP are doing that, for the most part, is they have the same, very, very similar, subtle differences. And we have had students that have chosen to go through, both boards, to be honest with you. We've had some that have chosen to go through CCAPP, some through CADTP. And, we don't recommend or promote any specific board. We'd like to offer as many options to our students as possible. But regardless of which school you went through, you want to make, or you're planning on going to, you want to make sure that they meet, these standards, and, discuss with your education institution, and even if you have to with these individual boards, to see if your school is approved. And if so, then, if your education institution is saying that they are approved, then they're going to be telling you the truth. I would hope, right? So that they're going to meet this criteria and meet these standards. So I don't really see a big difference, and I've seen students go either way. I've also asked some colleagues in the field recently that own treatment centers if they had any preference when it comes to hiring counselors out there in California, and they just said no. To be honest with you, they said it didn't really matter to them which credential they had, as long as they had the right to work in the state and they were certified. So there you go. Okay. I was not sure if you were hoping for one more, this one's better, but we still have one more. So let's take a look, because for a little bit there was only two boards. There was CCAPP and CADTP, right? Rewinding a little bit further back, there were 9 boards, and boards started to kind of like fall away and lose their ability to credential and all of that. And there was an additional board with CCAPP and CADTP. At one time, it's called CADE, and that board at some time lost their ability to credential as well. And they've also been around for years, for a very long time. Well, just recently they were reissued approval to start the credentialing process again, and so now they're offering their credentials. So let's take a look here and see what their requirements are. So this is CADE. Now, CADE has always been the board that's been aligned more with the community college level of schools, or the colleges and universities that may be regionally accredited. And we're seeing that reoccurring theme with their current standard here. Now, I do know that there was a time a few years ago, before they lost their ability to credential, where we were looking at becoming an approved school for CADE. We decided to not go that route at that time, and so currently we are not a CADE approved school ourselves. But they do offer a list of schools that you can go to that would meet their standard. We are a private education institution, and so we wouldn't fall under the category of their of the schools that they work with. And this has been always something that they have really focused on. But let's take a look and see what they require for their education, right? Now, one thing I could say, they have their little glossary here with terms. Okay, we just seen this here, so. Okay. CADE. Accredited addiction studies programs consist of a minimum of 39 semester credit units, or 600 clock hours. Okay. I'm sure that's including externship hours as well. All programs are fully transferable. Okay, that's the key there, because schools like ours and most other, if not all other private education institutions, are in the same boat, to where our credits are not transferable to other colleges or universities. And if a school that's private does tell you that, oh yeah, our credits are transferable, you better really dig into that. You better really look into that, because I have seen firsthand where students have been misled, or maybe didn't do their homework on their own, and had goals down the line of using some of that education to work towards an additional degree in counseling or psychology, or some other form of therapy down the line, and weren't able to. Now, maybe it wouldn't have been a big deal if they would have known that going in, but because they were misled or misunderstood, they made a decision, and hence wasted some time and money that maybe they wouldn't have if they would have had a clearer picture. So if you're going with the CADE school, then that they're going to be a regionally typically accredited college or university. And it says here that, let's see, they have a link to their website. It's CAADE.org. And again, they have their accredited colleges here. Now, I know they also mentioned that they have some here that have followed the CCAPP track when they're talking about internships. So the website doesn't seem real user friendly. There's some bugs to maybe work out on all, across the board, obviously. But the other thing that I wanted to note here is that they do not use the ICNRC exam. They actually have their own exam that they've put together. Okay. And, that was one thing that was happening, years ago when there were all of these different boards, is that, almost every board had a different exam. And, I've never heard anyone say that CADTP ever had an exam that was a cakewalk. I can't say that I've ever heard anything bad about it. Matter of fact, every counselor that I've ever met that's been aligned with CADTP has seemed to have great quality to their skill set, and have been very involved when it comes to advocating for patient rights and for our profession as a whole. So, as an individual counselor myself and an educator, I'm a huge fan of CADTP as well. And so, again, I would say that is an additional option for you. If you want to go with CADTP, again, it's going to be primarily because maybe you have learned about CADTP through clinicians, therapists, counselors that people that have worked in the field certified by this organization in the past. Maybe you've attended some other schools that were approved by CADTP, and as a result of that, it's kind of a familiar term ringing in your ear, or a board, that you would like to work with. But the reality is that you do have some choices, okay? You do have some options. So you have CCAPP, CADTP, and CADTP. And we are here to provide you with any support that we can to help you understand, the steps the best that you possibly can to make an educated decision. That's key. One thing that I would like to do for students is to make sure that they don't make a mistake and go to the school that's not the right fit for them. Maybe go to the board that's not the right fit for them. Even jumping in a field that's wrong, or not right for you, or not the right fit. Understand what you're going to get yourself into. But I think by reviewing these today, we can all agree that there is no easy route. There's no quick way to avoid, the requirements, right? Either way, you're going to have to take some specific education. Either way, you're going to have to complete some, externship that's supervised by a professional and by a school. And either way, you're going to have to take an examination and pay some fees, guys. So whatever method you'd like to use, whether it's putting a name in a hat, closing your eyes, spinning in a circle, pointing at the website, or maybe just a board that you are a specific fan of, then you have options. Go ahead and comment down below and, let us know what board you are planning on getting certified through, and maybe why. Okay, why did you make the specific choice to go with CCAPP, CADTP, or CADTP? Again, guys, this is Rick Reyes with the Alcohol and Drug Counseling Studies Institute, turning negative pasts into positive futures. And thank you for being part of the solution. Until next time.